The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with a gentle hum. Inside, 12 alien cadets pressed against the windows staring at the blue planet below. They had traveled from across the galaxy to attend the exchange program at Earth's military training facility. For most of them, this was their first visit to a heavy world planet. Deho stood in the landing bay, watching the ship touch down. He was a corporal in the Earth Defense Force, 26 years old, with short black hair and a lean, muscular build. He wore his standard green uniform and carried a datapad with the arrival schedules. Behind him, Lieutenant Hana adjusted her cap and checked her watch. "They're early," she said. Deho nodded, eager to see what a primitive planet looks like. Hana frowned but said nothing. They both knew the reputation Earth had in the galactic community. A late bloomer. A heavy world. A species that relied on brute strength instead of elegant technology. The whispers followed human soldiers wherever they went in the galaxy. The transport door opened, and the alien cadets emerged one by one. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some had scales. Others had fur or smooth skin that shimmered in colors humans had no names for. Each wore their planet's military uniform and carried gravity assist belts around their waists. The tallest alien stepped forward first. His name was Vex, and he stood nearly 3 meters high. His body was covered in dark green scales, and his eyes were golden with vertical pupils. He came from a planet where gravity was less than half of Earth's. Behind him came Kill, an insectoid being with 4 arms and large compound eyes. Her homeworld had even lighter gravity. "Welcome to Earth," Hana said in Galactic Standard, her translator device converting the words. "I am Lieutenant Hana, your liaison officer. This is Corporal Deho. He will assist with your training." Vex looked around the landing bay with barely concealed disappointment. "This is the famous Earth facility? It looks rather basic." Some of the other cadets laughed. Deho noticed several of them adjusting their gravity belts, reducing Earth's pull on their bodies. One cadet, a being named Moru who resembled a large slug with tentacles, had set his belt to reduce the gravity by 40%. "Our facilities focus on practical training rather than appearance," Hana replied, her voice professionally neutral. "Of course," Kill said, her translator giving her voice a musical quality. "Heavy world species must conserve resources for basic survival." "We understand." More laughter rippled through the group. Deho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his expression calm. This was not the first time he had heard such comments, and it would not be the last. The orientation took place in a large briefing room. Hana stood at the front, displaying holographic images of the facility and the surrounding mountains. The alien cadets sat in chairs specially designed to accommodate different body types. Most of them looked relaxed, almost bored. "Earth's gravity is 1.0 standard," Hana explained. "This may feel heavy to many of you. Please use your assist belts as needed during the adjustment period." "1 full standard gravity?" Vex said loudly. "How do you even move efficiently?" "It must be like swimming through mud." The other cadets laughed again. One of them, a floating gas bag creature named Prill, bobbed in the air. "No wonder humans are so slow in zero-gravity combat simulations. You're all weighed down even in your thoughts." Deho watched Hana's knuckles turn white as she gripped the podium. She continued the briefing without responding to the insult. She showed them the training schedules, the dormitories, the dining facilities. The aliens asked few questions. They seemed to think they already knew everything they needed to know about Earth. After the briefing ended, the cadets filed out, still talking amongst themselves. Deho heard their comments clearly. 10 weeks on this rock. What a waste of time. At least the food might be interesting. Heavy worlders need lots of calories. I heard humans can't even jump properly, all that gravity crushing down on them since birth. When the room was empty, Hana sat down heavily in one of the chairs. She looked tired. "They think we're stupid," she said quietly. Deho pulled up a chair and sat beside her. "They think many things. Most of them are wrong. The program is supposed to build cooperation between species," Hana continued. "But how can we cooperate when they don't respect us?" Deho was quiet for a moment. He thought about his own experiences in the Galactic Military Academy. The subtle looks, the assumptions, the way other species would speak slowly to him, as if his heavy world brain processed information at a slower rate. He had learned to ignore it, but it never stopped hurting. "What if we showed them instead of told them?" he said. Hana looked at him. "Showed them what?" "What Earth's gravity really means. Not in a lecture. In practice? You want to challenge them to something? Not a challenge. An invitation. Daeho pulled out his datapad and brought up a map of the training facility. The mountain trail. 10 kilometers. Standard patrol simulation. We use it for basic conditioning. Hana studied the map. The trail wound up through the mountains, gaining elevation steadily. It was not particularly difficult for a human soldier. They ran it regularly with full packs. But for beings from low-gravity worlds in Earth's full 1.0 standard gravity, they'll refuse, and Hana said. They'll say it's beneath them or make excuses. Then we invite them casually. A morning walk. A chance to see Earth's nature. We don't call it training or a test. A smile slowly formed on Hana's face. Corporal, that's almost devious. I learned from the best, Lieutenant. That evening, Daeho visited the alien dormitory. He found Vex and several other cadets in the common area, relaxing after their first day. They were drinking beverages from their homeworlds and talking in a mixture of languages. Excuse me, Daeho said politely. I wanted to invite you to something tomorrow morning. Vex turned his large head. An invitation? How quaint. What is it, human? A walk through the mountains. 10 kilometers. I thought you might enjoy seeing Earth's landscape. The sunrise from the high trail is quite beautiful. Kill's compound eyes focused on him. A walk, 10 kilometers? In this gravity? It's a common morning activity here, Daeho said with a slight shrug. But if it's too much, I understand. The gravity can be difficult for visitors. Vex's scales darkened slightly, a sign of irritation in his species. Too much? Human, my species conquered our solar system before yours discovered fire. A simple walk will not challenge us. Of course not, Daeho said. I simply wanted to offer. We leave at dawn. Bring water. He left before they could ask more questions. Behind him, he heard them talking in animated voices. He smiled to himself. Pride was a universal trait, it seemed. It existed in every species across every world. That night, Daeho prepared his gear. A simple pack, 15 kilograms of standard equipment, water rations, basic supplies. He checked his boots and set his alarm for an hour before dawn. Tomorrow would be interesting. In the alien dormitory, Vex looked at the other cadets. We will show this human what real soldiers can do. 10 kilometers? We will complete it before breakfast and barely break a sweat. The others agreed enthusiastically. None of them noticed their gravity belts sitting on the charging stations, and none of them thought to ask what the terrain would be like. They were confident, experienced, and absolutely certain of their superiority. Tomorrow morning would teach them differently. Dawn came cold and clear over the mountains. The sun had not yet risen, but the sky was turning from black to deep blue. Daeho stood at the trailhead, his pack secured on his back. He wore simple combat fatigues and boots that had seen many kilometers of trail. No gravity assist belt, no enhancement technology. Just cloth, leather, and 15 kilograms of gear. The alien cadets arrived in a group. All 12 of them had decided to come, which surprised Daeho a little. They wore their standard uniforms and carried small packs. Most of them had their gravity belts set to reduce Earth's pull by 20 to 30%. Vex had his set to reduce it by 40%. Good morning, Daeho said in Galactic Standard. Thank you for coming. Today we will walk 10 kilometers through the mountain trail. It is a simple patrol simulation. The pace will be steady. We are ready, human, Vex said. His translator made his voice sound confident and slightly amused. Lead on. We will show you how real soldiers move. Daeho nodded and began walking. The trail started gently, winding through tall pine trees. The morning air smelled of needles and earth. Birds were beginning to sing in the branches above. For a human, it was a pleasant morning hike. For the aliens, it was their first real test of Earth's gravity in a practical situation. The first kilometer passed easily. The aliens kept up without difficulty, still talking amongst themselves. Daeho heard their comments clearly through his translator earpiece. This is nothing. I could run this trail. The human walks so slowly. Does he think we are fragile? Perhaps all humans move at this crawling pace. Heavy worlders have no choice. Kill moved beside Vex on her 4 legs. I expected more difficulty, she said. Earth's reputation suggests harsher conditions. Reputation and reality often differ, Vex replied. These humans have exaggerated their world's challenges to seem more impressive. Daeho said nothing. He maintained his steady pace, his breathing calm and regular. The trail began to slope upward. Not steeply, but enough to notice. The second kilometer was beginning. Behind him, the alien chatter continued, but slightly less enthusiastically. Moru, the slug-like being, was already breathing harder. His tentacles moved in rhythm with his undulating body, pushing against Earth's pull with each forward motion. On his homeworld, he practically floated across surfaces. Here, every movement required real effort. By the third kilometer, the trail had grown noticeably steeper. The trees thinned slightly, allowing morning light to filter through. The sun was rising now, painting the sky orange and pink. It would have been beautiful if the aliens had energy to appreciate it. The chatter had stopped. Every alien was focused on putting one foot, paw, or tentacle in front of the other. Breathing had become louder, more labored. Kill's 4 legs, which seemed like an advantage at first, now required 4 times the effort to lift against gravity's constant pull. Her homeworld's 0.6 standard gravity had not prepared her for this. Vex's powerful tail dragged behind him. On his planet, he used it for balance and quick direction changes in the light gravity. Here it was just extra weight pulling him backward with every step. His scales had begun to lighten, shifting from dark green to pale olive. In his species, this indicated physical stress. Deho had not looked back once. His pace had not changed. His breathing remained steady. His steps were rhythmic, almost meditative. Upward, always upward, following the trail as it wound through rocks and roots and the occasional stream crossing. At the 4-kilometer mark, one of the aliens stopped. Priel, the gas bag creature who floated naturally, had been using a mechanical support frame to move on the ground. The frame's motors were overheating from the constant work of fighting gravity. Priel settled to the ground, deflating slightly. "I must rest," Priel announced through the translator, the voice coming from a speaker on the frame. "This gravity is unreasonable." Lieutenant Hanna appeared from behind with a medical team in a hover vehicle. She had been following at a distance, as planned. "Water?" she offered. Priel accepted gratefully. Deho paused for the first time and turned around. He looked at the group without judgment or triumph. "We can rest for 5 minutes if needed." "We do not need rest," Vex insisted, but his voice carried less confidence than before. "We continue." Deho nodded and resumed walking. Behind him, 11 aliens forced themselves to move. Priel remained behind with the medical team, too exhausted to continue. The 5th kilometer was worse. The trail grew rockier, requiring careful foot placement. Each step became a calculated decision. Where to put weight, how to balance, which rock was stable and which might roll. On a low-gravity world, a misstep might mean a gentle stumble. On Earth, it could mean a twisted ankle or worse. 2 more aliens dropped out. One was a bird-like creature named Tali, whose hollow bones were designed for flight in 0.4 gravity. Every step threatened to fracture something. The other was a small amphibious being named Kos, whose muscles simply gave out. Both sat beside the trail, accepting water and oxygen supplements from the medical team. The remaining 9 aliens pushed forward through sheer determination. Vex refused to quit, his pride driving him step by agonizing step. Kill continued on trembling legs, each movement a battle against the weight that seemed to grow heavier with every minute. Moru left a trail of moisture behind him as his body worked overtime to cool itself and maintain function. At 5.5 kilometers, Kill stumbled. Her forward left leg caught on a root and she fell forward, catching herself with her arms at the last moment. She lay there for several seconds, breathing hard, her compound eyes reflecting the morning sun. Deho stopped and turned. He walked back to her, his movements easy and relaxed. He extended a hand. Kill looked up at him. Through her exhaustion, genuine confusion showed in her expression. "How?" she asked simply. "How what?" Deho replied, "How are you not tired? How do you move so easily? We are trained soldiers experienced in combat and endurance, yet you walk as if carrying nothing while we can barely stand." Deho helped her to her feet. The other aliens gathered around, grateful for the break even though none would ask for it directly. Even Vex listened, too exhausted to maintain his earlier arrogance. "You asked the right question," Deho said. "It is not about training. Not really. It is about what you grow up with." He gestured to the mountains around them. "Every human who has ever lived carried this weight from their first breath. Babies learn to lift their heads against gravity. Children learn to stand, fighting against one full standard pulling them down every moment. By the time we walk, we have already won thousands of small battles against this force." Kill's breathing was starting to slow, but we trained in increased gravity chambers. We prepared for this. A chamber's not the same, Deho said. You visit increased gravity for an hour, then return to comfort. Humans never return. We sleep in this gravity. We eat in it. We think in it. Our bones grew dense under this pressure. Our hearts grew strong, pumping blood upward against this constant pull. Our muscles developed layer upon layer of fiber to move our own weight plus whatever we carry. Moru spoke up, his translator making burbling sounds into words. Your bodies are adapted to survive this. Adapted is a weak word, Deho replied. Built, forged, shaped by constant pressure from the moment of birth until death. You came from worlds where movement is easier, where technology replaced the need for strength. There is no shame in that. But here on Earth you must understand what humans overcome every single day without thinking about it. Vex finally spoke, his voice quiet. I called you primitive. I thought your reliance on strength meant you lacked sophistication. Strength is not the opposite of intelligence, Deho said. It is just one tool among many, but it is a tool you cannot fully understand until you live in the conditions that create it. He looked at each of them in turn. We are at the halfway point. 5 more kilometers remain. I will slow the pace. There is no shame in adapting to conditions. A good soldier knows their limits and works within them. The aliens exchanged glances. Something had shifted in their understanding. They were no longer trying to prove superiority. They were trying to learn. We continue, Vex said. This time it was not pride speaking. It was determination. Deho nodded and resumed walking. His pace was slower now, more considerate. He pointed out easier paths through the rocks, more stable footing. He shared his water without being asked. The aliens followed, and though every step was still difficult, they were beginning to understand what they were really learning. This was not about completing a walk. This was about respecting the weight that shaped a species. The 6th kilometer tested them in new ways. The trail had climbed above the tree line now, exposed to wind and sun. Rocks dominated the landscape, ranging from pebbles to boulders the size of vehicles. Each footstep required careful attention. The aliens had to think about every movement in ways they never had before. Deho moved through this terrain like water flowing downhill, natural and unconsidered. His feet found stable ground automatically. His body adjusted to slopes and angles without conscious thought. Decades of living in Earth's gravity had programmed these responses into his nervous system at a level deeper than thought. Behind him, 9 aliens struggled with calculations their bodies had never needed to make. How much force to step down with? How much energy to push up with? How to shift weight without toppling? Every action required conscious decision. Another alien dropped out at kilometer 6.5. A being named Trix, whose species evolved in zero-gravity environments entirely. Trix had been using a powered exoskeleton, but even with technological assistance, the constant crushing weight had exhausted him. He sat among the rocks, his breathing apparatus working overtime. I apologize, Trix said to Deho. I cannot continue. You made it farther than many humans could in zero gravity, Deho replied. Adaptation goes both ways. The medical team collected Trix and the remaining 8 continued. Vex was moving more slowly now, each step deliberate. His earlier confidence had been replaced by grim determination. Kill moved beside him, her 4 legs shaking with each placement. At the 7-kilometer mark, Deho stopped beside a large flat rock. We rest here for 10 minutes, he said. Drink water. Eat if you need energy. The aliens collapsed in various ways depending on their body structures. Some sat, some lay down, some simply stopped moving and stood in place. Their breathing was heavy and labored. Sweat, oil, or other cooling fluids covered their bodies depending on their species. Deho sat on the rock and pulled out a simple rice ball from his pack. He ate slowly, looking out over the valley below. The training facility looked small from here, a collection of buildings in the distance. The morning sun had climbed higher, warming the rocks. Moru dragged himself closer to Deho. May I ask a question? Of course. How do human children survive? If this gravity is so strong, how do infants develop? They must be incredibly fragile at birth. Deho considered the question. Human babies are fragile, yes. They cannot walk for a full year or more. During that time they grow stronger slowly. First they learn to lift their heads, then to roll over, then to sit up. Each stage is a victory against gravity. Their bones harden, their muscles develop. By the time they take their first steps, usually around 1 year old, they have been training for those steps their entire lives. 1 year just to walk? Kill said. She had moved closer to listen. My species walks within hours of birth. In .6 gravity, yes. Here, your species' infants would struggle like ours do. A reptilian alien named Sora spoke up. This explains much about human behavior. You celebrate physical milestones because they are genuine achievements. A child's first steps are actually difficult. Every movement is difficult at first, Deho agreed. Human children fall constantly while learning to walk. They build pain tolerance and balance through failure. By adulthood, all of this is automatic. We do not think about fighting gravity any more than you think about breathing. Vex had been listening quietly. His scales had regained some of their darker color during the rest. On my world, we pride ourselves on quick reflexes and agility. But here I feel clumsy. Slow. You are not clumsy, Deho said. You are adjusted to different conditions. A human in .4 gravity would also feel awkward at first. We would jump too high, move too fast, miscalculate our strength. It works both ways. But you adapt faster, don't you? Kill said. Humans in low gravity adjust within days. We have been on Earth for only a day and already we are exhausted. Perhaps, Deho acknowledged. Humans are used to fighting resistance. When resistance decreases, we find it easier than when it increases. But that does not make you weak. It makes you different. A flying alien named Kira, who had remained mostly quiet, spoke with a whistling voice. I begin to understand why humans are effective soldiers in crisis situations. When technology fails, when ships lose power, when environments become hostile, you still have your baseline capabilities. You are never helpless, Deho nodded slowly. That is one way to see it. Humans cannot fly naturally like you, Kira. We cannot process information at the speed that Vex's species can. We do not have Kill's multidirectional vision or Moru's chemical sensitivity, but we can move our own weight efficiently anywhere with standard gravity or higher. It is a survival trait, Moru said thoughtfully. Born from necessity, all traits are, Deho replied. He stood and shouldered his pack. Ready to continue? The aliens rose with various groans and sounds of effort, but there was something different in their movements now. They were no longer rushing to prove themselves. They were pacing themselves, learning, adapting. The 8th kilometer challenged them with a steep upward section. The trail zigzagged up a rocky slope. Each turn required them to push against gravity's full force. Legs that were already tired now had to work even harder. Deho maintained his steady pace, neither rushing nor slowing. His breathing remained controlled. His heart, strengthened by a lifetime in one full gravity, pumped efficiently. His muscles, dense with fibers built layer upon layer since childhood, did their work without complaint. 2 more aliens stopped during this section. Their bodies simply had nothing left to give. They sat beside the trail, too tired even to feel shame, and waited for the medical team. 6 aliens remained. At kilometer 9, the trail leveled out somewhat. The aliens felt a surge of hope. Just 1 more kilometer. Surely they could manage 1 more kilometer. But exhaustion was cumulative. Each step cost more than the last. Muscles that had been pushed beyond their normal limits were now operating on pure willpower. Even breathing was becoming difficult. The thin mountain air combined with the constant gravitational pull created a perfect storm of physical stress. Sora stopped and bent over, breathing hard. I am sorry. I cannot feel my legs anymore. Deho walked back to her. You have done well. Making it this far is an achievement. But you are not even breathing hard, she said. 9 kilometers of constant climbing and you are not even breathing hard. For me, this is a light morning exercise. For you, this is extraordinary effort in unfamiliar conditions. Both things are true. The medical team collected Sora and 5 aliens remained. Vex, Kill, Moru, Kira, and an alien named Bex who had said very little the entire walk, but had kept moving with mechanical persistence. The final kilometer stretched before them. The trail wound around one last ridge before reaching the summit point, where the patrol simulation would end. The sun was fully up now, bright and warm. What should have been a pleasant day for hiking had become an endurance trial. 1 more kilometer, Vex said quietly. We will finish this. Deho nodded. Yes, we will. They moved together, the 5 aliens and 1 human. The pace was very slow now, barely faster than a crawl. But they were moving. Step by step, meter by meter, they climbed. Kill's 4 legs trembled with every placement, but she kept going. Moru left a trail of exhaustion behind him, but he kept going. Vex's tail dragged through the dirt, but he kept going. Kira had given up trying to hover and walked on her wing claws, but she kept going. Bex moved like a machine running on fumes but kept going, and Deho led them forward, his presence both a challenge and an encouragement. He did not mock their struggle. He did not show impatience. He simply existed as a demonstration of what was possible when a body was built for exactly these conditions. The summit point came into view. A rocky outcrop with a flat area marked the end of the 10-kilometer trail. A simple marker pole stood there, used for navigation training. To the aliens, it looked like the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. One more corner, one more upward push, one more fight against the weight that had pressed down on them for hours. They reached the summit together as the sun climbed toward noon. 5 aliens and 1 human stood at the trail's end, looking back at the path they had traveled. The 5 aliens who reached the summit collapsed in various ways. Vex lay flat on his back, his chest heaving, scales pale with exhaustion. Kill folded her 4 legs beneath her and lowered her body to the ground, compound eyes half closed. Moru simply stopped moving, his tentacles spread out like he had melted into the rock. Kira perched on a boulder, wings drooping. Vex sat perfectly still, conserving every bit of remaining energy. Deho unslung his pack and sat on a flat rock overlooking the valley. He pulled out a simple rice ball wrapped in dried seaweed and began eating. His breathing was elevated but controlled. A light sheen of sweat covered his forehead, nothing more. He looked like someone who had completed a pleasant morning walk, not a grueling mountain climb. The hover transport arrived carrying the other 7 aliens and the medical team. They sat down in a flat area near the summit. The exhausted aliens who had dropped out earlier climbed out slowly, moving to join their companions. There was no mockery between those who finished and those who did not. They had all learned the same lesson. Lieutenant Hana stepped down from the transport carrying water containers. She distributed them without comment, and the aliens drank gratefully. Some of their species required different hydration formulas, which she had prepared. Vex managed to sit up after several minutes. He accepted water from Hana and drank half the container in one long pull. Then he turned to look at Deho, who was quietly eating his rice ball and looking at the distant mountains. "Corporal Kim," Vex said. His voice was hoarse, and his translator struggled to process it clearly. "I must apologize." Deho turned to look at him. "For what?" "For my disrespect. For my assumptions. For my ignorance." Vex's golden eyes met Deho's dark ones. "I called your world primitive. I thought Earth's gravity made you limited and slow. I did not understand that it made you strong." "You are not the first to think this," Deho said calmly. "Many species see Earth and think we are disadvantaged. They see our heavy muscles and dense bones and think we are crude. But that strength is earned," Kill said. She had recovered enough to speak. "Every human carries weight we cannot imagine. Every day of your lives is training." Deho finished his rice ball and pulled out another one. "Every species has advantages. You can process information faster than humans, Vex. Your reflexes are superior in most conditions. Kill. Your multi-directional vision sees things we miss. Moru can analyze chemical compositions we cannot detect. These are not small things. But when everything fails," Kira said quietly, "when technology breaks and environment turns hostile, humans still function. We would be helpless. You would simply continue." "Perhaps," Deho acknowledged, "but you would survive in conditions that would kill a human. Radiation levels, temperature extremes, atmospheric compositions. Every species has their niche." Beck spoke for the first time, their voice mechanical through the translator. "The difference is that human strength is always available. Our advantages require specific conditions. Yours is baseline." Moru dragged himself closer to the group. "I have a question. If Earth's gravity is so challenging, why did humans spread to other worlds? Why not stay where you are adapted?" Deho smiled slightly. "Because humans are curious. We see a mountain and want to climb it. We see an ocean and want to cross it. We see stars and want to touch them. Gravity makes us strong, but curiosity makes us move." Lieutenant Hana sat down near the group. "When humanity first reached the galactic community, we were already living on 4 different planets and 7 moons in our solar system. None of them had Earth's gravity. We adapted." "How long did adaptation take?" Kill asked. "Biologically? Generations. But functionally, humans adjust to lower gravity within days. Higher gravity takes longer, but we manage." Hana gestured to the training facility below. "Earth is our baseline. Everything else feels easier. Vex looked down at his own body, still trembling from exertion. My species has 7 colony worlds. All of them have similar gravity to our homeworld. We sought comfort in our expansion. That is not wrong, Deho said, but it means you are specialized. Humans are generalists. We can function across a wider range of conditions because our baseline is high. The hover transport took off again, heading back down to collect more supplies. The group sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, recovering and thinking. The morning sun warmed the rocks and a light breeze blew across the summit. Tali, the bird-like alien who had dropped out early, spoke up. "Will there be more training like this?" "If you want it," Deho replied. "The purpose was not to torture you. It was to help you understand what humans deal with constantly. Now you know. I want to continue," Vex said firmly. "If I am to serve alongside human soldiers in the galactic military, I must understand your capabilities and limitations." "This walk showed me I understood neither," Kill nodded. "I agree. We should train in Earth gravity regularly, not to match human performance, which may be impossible for our biology, but to understand it. We could start with shorter distances," Deho suggested, 5 kilometers instead of 10. "Build up gradually. Your bodies can adapt to some degree with consistent exposure." "How long would adaptation take?" Kira asked. "Months, probably. Maybe years for full comfort. Your bones will never become as dense as human bones, but your muscles can strengthen. Your cardiovascular systems can improve efficiency. You will never be human, but you can become more capable." Hana pulled out her datapad and made notes. "I will create a graduated training program. Optional participation. Those who want to improve their heavy world capability can join." "I will join," Vex said immediately. "And I," Kill added. One by one, the other aliens agreed. Even those who had not finished the walk wanted to continue. They had learned something important today. They had learned that dismissing a species because of their environment was foolish. They had learned that what seemed like a disadvantage could be a strength. Most importantly, they had learned respect. Moru asked another question. "Corporal Kim, what weight did you carry today?" 15 kilograms. Standard combat load. "And you could carry more?" "Much more. 30 kilograms is normal for extended operations. In emergency situations, humans have carried 50 kilograms or more." The aliens exchanged looks. 50 kilograms in Earth's gravity would be like carrying a whole person on your back, and humans did this while fighting, running, performing complex tasks. "Your species is terrifying," Tali said, but there was respect in the statement, not fear. Deho laughed. "We are just people. We seem terrifying here in our environment. But put me in hard radiation or extreme cold or toxic atmosphere and I become helpless. You would thrive where I would die. But you would die trying," Beck said. "That seems to be a human trait as well. You do not give up easily." "Gravity teaches persistence," Deho replied. "Every human who learns to walk learns that falling down is not failure. Staying down is failure. We fall, we get up, we try again. Thousands of times as children. It becomes part of how we think." Sora leaned forward. "Is this why human soldiers are so effective in prolonged campaigns? You are trained from birth to persist despite difficulty." "Perhaps. Though I think every species has persistence in their own way. Humans just express it physically because our environment demanded physical solutions." The conversation continued for another hour. The aliens asked questions about human development, culture, training methods. Deho answered what he could, and Hana filled in details about military integration and protocol. Eventually, Hana stood. "We should head back. The descent will be easier but still requires care. We will take the hover transport down since everyone has already proven their point." "Actually," Vex said slowly, "I would like to walk down, if Corporal Kim is willing to lead us." Deho raised an eyebrow. "It is 5 kilometers by the descent trail. Still in full gravity, I know, but I want to continue. I want to see how far I can push myself in these conditions." Kill stood on shaky legs. "I will join you," 3 others agreed. The remaining aliens chose the hover transport, too exhausted to continue, and no one judged them for it. Deho stood and shouldered his pack once more. "Then we descend, slowly, carefully. Downhill is easier on the heart but harder on the knees. Pay attention to your footing." They began the descent, 5 aliens and 1 human. This time there was no competition, no pride, no mockery. Just students learning from a teacher, beginning to understand a world that had seemed primitive but was actually profound. The descent trail wound down the opposite side of the mountain, offering different views of the valley. Morning had turned to afternoon, and the sun was warm on their backs. The 5 aliens who chose to walk moved carefully, testing each step. Downhill proved to be its own challenge. Gravity pulled them forward constantly, threatening to turn controlled movement into a tumbling fall. Deho demonstrated the technique. Shorter steps, knees bent slightly, weight shifted back, controlled the descent rather than fight it. The aliens followed his example, learning a new kind of movement. Their bodies ached from the morning climb, but something had changed in their attitude. This was no longer about proving anything. It was about learning. Bex moved beside Deho when the trail widened enough. "May I ask something personal?" "Of course. Did you know we would struggle this much? Was that the point of inviting us?" Deho was quiet for a moment, navigating around a loose rock. "Yes and no. I knew it would be difficult for you. I train with human soldiers who run this trail easily. But I did not do this to shame you. I did this because words were not working." "What do you mean?" "You heard in the briefing that Earth has 1 full standard gravity. You heard the numbers, the measurements, but you did not understand what that meant. You could not understand, so I showed you." "By making us suffer," Kill said from behind them. "By letting you experience reality," Deho corrected gently. "I did not make the gravity stronger. I did not choose a harder trail. I simply invited you to do what human soldiers do as basic conditioning. The difficulty came from the difference between your expectations and reality." Kira, carefully placing her wing claws on each step, added her thoughts. "You were teaching without lecturing. Humans do this often, I think. Demonstrate rather than explain. Action is clearer than words sometimes," Deho agreed. "Especially across species barriers. We can translate language, but we cannot translate experience. Until today, you had not experienced what it means to live on a heavy world." They walked in silence for a while. The trail leveled out into a forested section, providing shade and easier footing. The aliens' breathing remained labored but steadier than before. Their bodies were learning, adjusting in small ways to the constant pull. Moru spoke up from the rear of the group. "I have been thinking about military implications. If humans have this advantage in gravity, why are we not using it in tactical planning?" Lieutenant Hana, who had chosen to walk down with them, answered this. "We are, slowly. Earth has been in the galactic community for only 3 generations. Many species still see us as newcomers, but human soldiers are now being assigned to high-gravity world operations specifically because we handle those conditions better. And in shipboarding actions," Deho added, "when ships lose power and artificial gravity fails, human marines can still move and fight. Other species struggle in zero-gravity or unpredictable gravity shifts. We adapt faster." Vex's scales darkened slightly with thought. "This means humans are more valuable in crisis situations. When conditions are worst, you perform best." "Relatively speaking, yes," Hana said. "But we have weaknesses too. Human reaction times are slower than many species. Our sensory range is limited. We require specific atmospheric conditions. We cannot survive in environments that other species find comfortable." "But your baseline is higher," Beck stated. "If all technology failed, if we were reduced to pure biological capability, humans would survive longer in more conditions than most species." "Perhaps," Deho acknowledged. "But technology is what makes the galactic community work. Without it, we would all be trapped on our homeworlds. The point is not that humans are superior. The point is that every species brings different strengths." The trail opened up to a viewpoint overlooking the training facility. From here, they could see the landing pads, the dormitories, the training grounds. Small figures moved between buildings. Life continued below while they walked above. Kill stopped at the viewpoint, her 4 legs finally getting a rest. "I see it differently now. This morning I saw a basic facility on a heavy world. Now I see a place designed to train soldiers in difficult conditions. The gravity is not a limitation. It is a tool." "Exactly," Hana said with approval. "Every human who trains here leaves stronger than when they arrived. Not just muscularly, but mentally. If you can function in Earth gravity, you can function almost anywhere. Except low gravity," Kira pointed out. "True," Deho admitted. "Humans in zero gravity are clumsy at first. We overshoot movements, push too hard, spin uncontrollably. But we learn. Most humans adjust to zero gravity within a week. How long does it take your species to adjust to heavy gravity?" Kira considered this. "Months. Maybe never fully. Our biology is not designed for it. So we each have our advantages, Deho said. The goal of this exchange program should be learning to work together, using everyone's strengths. They resumed walking. The trail descended through a rocky area that required concentration. The aliens were tired, moving slowly, but they were still moving. That itself was an achievement. At 2 kilometers from the facility, they encountered a group of human soldiers running up the trail. The humans moved at a pace that would be a sprint for the aliens, carrying full packs, weapons, and equipment. They were sweating but not struggling. As they passed, each human nodded respectfully to Deho. "Afternoon, Corporal. Training run?" "Yes, Sergeant. Standard afternoon exercise." The humans continued up the trail and disappeared around a bend. The aliens watched them go in silence. What had taken the aliens all morning to climb, struggling with every step? These humans were running as routine exercise. "Now you understand," Deho said quietly. "This is normal for us. What seems impossible to you is our baseline," Vex spoke slowly. "When I return to my unit, I will share what I learned here. Not just the facts about gravity, but the understanding. Human soldiers are not slow or primitive. They are forged in conditions we cannot imagine. Please also share that we are still just people," Deho added. "Strong in our way, weak in others. We get tired, we make mistakes, we feel fear. Gravity makes us physically capable, but it does not make us perfect. Humble despite your advantages," Moru observed. "That is also a lesson." The final kilometer passed in comfortable silence. The aliens were exhausted but satisfied. They had learned something important, not just about humans, but about themselves. They had discovered limits they did not know they had, and possibilities they had never considered. The trail ended at the training facility's edge. The hover transport was waiting with medical teams ready to check everyone. The 7 aliens who had taken the transport down were there too, having rested and recovered. As Deho's group arrived, the others stood. Slowly, deliberately, they began to applaud. It was a gesture they had learned from human customs. The 5 aliens who had walked the entire route down looked surprised, then pleased. They had earned respect from their peers. Lieutenant Hana addressed the entire group. Today's exercise was not meant to be cruel or to prove superiority. It was meant to build understanding. You have all experienced firsthand what it means to operate on a heavy world. This knowledge will make you better soldiers and better colleagues. She gestured to Deho. Corporal Kim completed this route carrying 15 kilograms at a pace that is normal for human training. Some of you finished the route using gravity assistance and carrying minimal weight. Both accomplishments are valid. You learned what you needed to learn. Vex stepped forward. His scales had returned to their normal dark green color. Lieutenant, I request that regular gravity training be added to our program schedule. If we are to work alongside humans, we must improve our capability in Earth standard conditions. Agreed, Kill said. Several other aliens added their agreement. Hana smiled. I will arrange it. We will start with 5-kilometer routes and build up gradually. No one is required to participate, but all are welcome. Over the following weeks, the alien cadets integrated into the facility's training programs. Most of them chose to participate in the gravity conditioning exercises. They started with short walks and gradually built up endurance. None of them would ever match human performance in heavy gravity, but they improved steadily. More importantly, the relationship between human and alien soldiers changed. The mocking comments stopped. The assumptions of human primitiveness disappeared. The aliens began asking humans for advice on techniques and training methods. Friendships formed across species lines. Deho continued his normal duties, but he noticed the change. Aliens who once avoided physical training with humans now specifically requested joint exercises. They wanted to learn, to understand, to improve. 3 months into the program, reports began filtering back to Galactic Military Command. The Earth facility was producing soldiers with better gravity adaptation than any other training center. Units with mixed human and alien composition were performing better in diverse environments. The phrase heavy world advantage entered official military doctrine. Requests came in from other facilities. Could Earth send trainers? Could they share their programs? Could they host more exchange cadets? The planet that had been seen as a backwater was suddenly recognized as having unique value. One evening, Deho sat with Vex, Kill, and several other aliens in the facility's common area.